Right.
My grandma's going to love your shirt, David.
We could really,
I know, right?
We could really use your Mima right now to keep our validation spirits high. Yeah.
She'll say nice things.
Oh, boy. She's going to call you. Says her say vagina.
Is that your grandma voice? That was adorable.
It says fajita. It's just spelled wrong.
Fajita.
Fajitas. Don't be a fajita.
Don't be a fajita.
Yeah.
Be a
I
taquito.
don't want to be a vagina.
Be a chalupa.
Yeah. Be a chalupa. Welcome back to more Artistry on Earth. We are Cryptic Tattoo and Social Gallery in Springfield, Missouri. And we just got back from Carnival of Ink 2025 at the Springfield Expo Center here in Springfield, Missouri. I'm Nate.
I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Nate, too. No, Dave. My name's David.
Nate, too. No, we need more Nates. I like it. From now on, from this day forward. So this was a huge weekend. This is the second year that Cryptic made the scene, right, at Carnival. I think 2024 was the very first year. And we had a plan then because we got a big like quad space. We wanted to like claim a big like four spot.
Just say it, Nate. We were a spectacle.
We were well, and because it's like we each had banners. Yeah. It was the founding members. We were like we all had our own banners. We had our the big banner. We had the podcast TV on the TV running. Yeah. We had like flameless candles lit, and we had decorate. It was cool. We went pretty good. We wanted to make an appearance, but this year we're like, okay, we don't have to go that hard this time. Instead, what if we got, instead of a quad, we got a row? Granted, we a lot of things since we planned that, a lot of things have happened. We took on 3 new artists.
Yeah.
We took on an apprentice, and then we hired 2 artists.
Not an apprentice anymore.
But our apprentice just got licensed just before this year's carnival. So this was a huge step for her because, I mean, she freshly licensed. She jumps right into the fray. She worked some tattoos during the convention. She even competed in the convention. It was a huge weekend for her. We even threw a small party here in the crypt to congratulate her, which was adorable. And it could have been cooler, could have been creepier, could have been weirder. But, you know, I understand your guys' decision to not do the Court of Owls skull and crossbones initiation process. We had a party instead, and that's fine. But so Haley gets licensed. She jumps in the fray. Ryan, a hire that we brought on about 6 or 7. Well, it's actually longer than that.
September.
It was back in September. She jumped in for the first time doing a convention. She felt confident enough with us holding her hand, and she held her own. She did awesome. She did a freehand piece with markers.
Yep.
And entered that, which was, I mean, not just showing up and not just working the show, but like competing and actually like throwing themselves into the fray was incredibly impressive. And we'll talk about all this in more detail.
And Haley entered one too.
Yeah, Haley, she did. Haley did the best.
She's been licensed for like a week.
And she did a best of day.
You, they're probably going to be haters going, why would you put somebody in a show that fresh?
She was ready.
But understand, this girl can throw some ink, and she did extremely well.
And she had a real apprenticeship for just over a year. She didn't have a shenanigans 8 weeks you're done apprenticeship.
Right. Well, everything that we talked about in previous episodes, we kept to, we honored. And granted, we actually had I'd say you had it a bit easier because you didn't have to like, beat the kid out of her or anything. You didn't have to like, she had the chops, she had the maturity.
She had the chops. She just had never put a machine in her
Yeah,
hand. She didn't have to unlearn all the bad habits.
Right.
That made it better.
Well, because she didn't just have artistic skill, but she had artistic skill in a professional realm, working with a client and then making those adjustments based on what they wanted. And so she'd done all that before. And
right.
Yeah, she was more ready than the average apprentice.
No, it was a great show. But even more so, it was a great show for you. Because we have yet another award-winning artist in the Cryptic Tattoo Studio. Ta-da! For first place, medium color, for a beautiful color fox.
Yeah.
Kelsey.
How did that feel?
Ruby blue tattoo.
It felt surprising, and I was really excited because so most of the categories have between like 8 to 20 people in them. The only reason I felt comfortable entering this year was last year there was a couple categories that had like 2 or 3 entries. And I was like, man, I should be participating because at that point, like, there's a first and second place. If there's only a couple people in it, like, odds are good. Apparently, a lot of other people thought the same thing because cover-ups was one of the categories that was really sparse last year and then loaded this year. And collaboration too. I think there was only 2 people last year, and then this year everyone was like, we're getting in that.
Right.
But I had this piece that I did on another of our artists, Alexis, that was just kind of a spur of the moment. Hey, Facebook's down and we're bored. Check out this thing I saw earlier. Oh yeah, I like that. We could do something like that. So there's another artist out of South Korea that does these pieces that are inspired by the paintings inside the ceilings of these Buddhist temples. It's gorgeous, geometric with contrasting colors. So I was like, hey, let's, design you something custom. We decided that a fox is her spirit animal. I did a custom geometric design inside the silhouette of a fox with no black to it. And it's got some really pretty colors in it. And I'm sure you'll put a picture and was planning on finishing it at the end of the month, but Mr. David here said I had to finish it earlier so I could enter it. And that was good advice, apparently.
Absolutely it was.
Yeah, and then
absolutely
it went through, and there was some amazing pieces. So I was like, well, okay,
there was some tough competition.
If I don't get one, I'm not going to be upset because there's some really, really, really good pieces in there.
I don't know. I had a gut feeling, and my gut's usually right. I'm just
I knew before it was even going into the show that this was going to be a showstopper.
The judges deliberated for a long time, and then they called like 5 or 6 back up for a second look, and mine was not one of them. So I was like, oh, okay, like I have my little second of disappointment now. This is fine. Move on. And then they called second from one of the ones that was called back up, and then called mine as first. And I guess they'd already decided before they called those back up.
It's like a no-brainer situation.
And the look on your face because they said Alexis's name, and you just sat there and you stared at me. And I remember looking at you, and I'm going, "That's you.
That's you.
That is you. You go. It's okay. Go."
Like my brain wasn't ready for it. Yeah. So I wish.
Awesome.
I wish they would have caught the footage of that reaction because I think mine was kind of like,
argued with us.
What? But
like you were like, what? No, it's just 9. Alexis, that's you.
And David went full Little League dad. Like my kid just scored a home run.
Get out of his chair. Get up there.
No,
we were all
So
absolutely.
That was really fun.
You gotta support your own.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
That was such a good win.
That was what we were there for.
I think you were like mentally ready for it though.
I was.
And you kept telling me, well, they didn't call yours back up there because they already knew it was going to win. And I'm like, funny.
Right.
They knew the moment they saw that thing. And, the tattoo hang was there, and
to watch the video of them looking it over before it went on stage.
They just were ecstatic about that piece.
And then Bryn Beer, who's an extraordinary artist and was one of the judges, had some really kind words for me afterwards. And I was lucky enough to watch him tattoo for a while and learn some. He was working on a really nice color realism Chewbacca portrait.
Right.
He had some really great words for me. And that was cool, too, to have somebody that I hadn't met before be giving me that encouragement. And Gypsy from the same shop up in Indiana was razzing me.
Get that recognition from your peers.
What was great is that people knew the piece, and then when they found out it was you,
they're like, "Oh, that was you! That was you!" And
it's like they knew the piece. Your work spoke for you.
It was fun to be low key famous for like 2 days.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like I've never seen. It was a very emotional moment. It was a very emotional time. I went and reached over for a hug, and you just started crying. And I've never seen that. I didn't think you could.
Well,
and then
I
started crying, and now I'm going to cry right now.
I was fine until everybody hugged me, and then I got some love in my eyes, and then I couldn't.
We're incredibly proud of you, and you absolutely deserve it. And if it's any validation, like, oh, I'm just so slow, and I got all these hurdles I have to get over. Yes, you do. You absolutely have hurdles. You absolutely have walls you're going to bust through.
Carry your own.
But that is not one of your hurdles. That's the extra time and the extra meticulous detail you put into it. It speaks for you, and that's only going to get better.
Yeah, and that's what Bryn said too. Is Bryn was saying he gets so frustrated if he's planned like 3 sessions on a piece. He's done session 2, and then the person just ghosts him, and they're like, well, I'm happy with how it looks. I don't want to pay for another session. He's like, well, you don't understand how it could look. I haven't put the finishing touches. Right. It's not done till the artist says it's done. And he asked how much time I put in that fox piece, and I told him it was probably about 15 hours, give or take. And it sounds like more than that when you say 4 sessions, but some of those sessions were short. And so he's like, well, that's what it should be, And I said, it's perfectly normal. It's perfectly reasonable to spend 3 to 6 hours on a medium-sized piece.
There's no need to be rushing through.
But if you put that much more time into it, you can really see, like, oh yeah, that was not a 3-hour piece,
Oh, for sure. That's
and to think Alexis originally came up to you with a large piece that went like down.
She said, we planned it, and then she's like, but what if it was my entire side? And then I was like, oh, that piece just got not fun anymore. That's going to take me 5 years. We're not doing that.
But at least it would have been big enough. All those small details would have been a little easier. But I was impressed.
I like it the way that the size that it is,
and all the little
really
line work,
all of that stand out even more.
Well, and it's not as small a line work as it looks.
No,
because a lot of it is
now.
Like a 9 round shader, and it looks really skinny, but
but they're tight.
It's the precision
of
the whole interior of that.
It's the gap in betweens that make the difference. And I don't know. I
don't know. I'm really fond of the tail.
Yeah,
that blend.
The way
is
that
beautiful.
blend is just amazing.
Yeah, and I was hesitant about that because I'm not a big fan of red on my own, but then that gradient, and that's traditionally what should be behind those teals in the Korean paintings, because red is a symbol of luck and so many other good things in Asian cultures. And so, and Alexis likes red, so she's like, yeah, let's do the red. Like, okay. I thought about doing the teal, but the red pops.
No, it was
so well.
A great choice.
Especially being a fox too, like it's
great
fitting.
Choice.
Do you remember your technique for blending that? Was it going one way?
For doing the gradient?
Yeah.
I started from the light end of the gradient just because that was the most tender spot on her body. And we did that one session, used a little bit of numbing, and we hadn't on the others, but it was up really high on her hip bone, and she's a smaller girl, and so like she can really feel that hip bone when I was working on it. Like, let's get this rough part out first, and then I'll work my way back down and get the rest of it done. Just so that we're not coming to that at the very end of a long day. It was the longest session we had. That last one was probably like 5 or 6 hours. And so I didn't want to save that for the end.
Did you find midtones and kind of blend it together in the middle?
Yeah, so I used world famous Jack the Ripper red for the lightest red tone. My medium red tone, I used Eternal dark red with a dot of Everglades green in it to deepen it. And then my darkest tone, I used Eternal deep red, which is almost like a brick, like a brownish
almost
red.
Brick red, yeah. Yeah.
And so I ran my lightest color and then was mixing in the cart, doing kind of like a 50-50 blend between the lightest and the medium red. Then I ran the medium. Then I did between the medium to dark and then the dark. So it was a nice little gradient. It was hard to run a gradient when you're having to work around all the little swirlies and the details and but
well, you nailed it.
It worked. Yeah. It took a
minute.
minute.
Has this experience kind of rewired or reinforced your trajectory as an artist?
My trajectory as an artist? Well, it was good to try something different in that, like, I was able to try light line work. The white and light yellow and goldenrod yellow line work that's in there, to do all of that line work first, because that's the only way to manage it stencil wise. Let it all heal so that it's secure and it's in there, and then coming back with those darker tones. And it's hard to see just the yellow and white healed on the skin with nothing else around it, especially depending on the undertones. And she's got Italian heritage, so she's not super pink. She's got more of an olive undertone.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to see those yellows, but then once you get those colors around them, they immediately pop, and it gives that cool effect. And that first session, I'd be happy to share those pictures if you want to overlap with this. But after the first session, I was like, oh crap, I have no idea if those colors are in there. All you could see was the stencil. The yellow blended with the purple stencil was like turning things weird teal colors. I was like, what is happening? Oh my gosh, I hope I didn't screw this up.
But it all goes away.
Then seeing it healed, she holds yellow really well.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, good. We have yellow victory. We're good. The second session, I worked on that middle piece and I didn't get as much done as I'd wanted. So I was like, it looks nice, but I'm a little discouraged because this is taking forever. Third session, we got a bunch done and I was like, okay, this is actually going to be cool. And then the fourth session, we came back and did the little booties on the fox and the tail. And the ears. I was like, oh, it's like a fox looks better when it has feet and a tail and ears. So after that one, I was like, oh, this is mint. Like, this is nice. It's really good. So then it was just a matter of keeping it all wrapped up and from getting dry before the judging, because we finished it the day before Carnival started, which was 2 days before.
Right. We were packing
category
up
was
and,
judging.
and moving
Perfect
everything out of the
spot.
studio around
Yeah.
you.
There was couches going by and going into a U-Haul as we were finishing, like, and she's
Yeah.
like, 30 more minutes. And I was like, you didn't ask me. I was like, 30 more minutes. No, it's not getting done in 30 minutes. But I think it was really good to participate in that. I also entered a cover-up piece that I'm really proud of that's pinned on my Insta. It's
Right. And you should be.
It's
proud
an
of that.
eagle,
That's-
and I'm part of why I'm proud of it is because the old piece, it wasn't just initials. Like, it was a big, gnarly, old
Freedom
army
pigeon.
tattoo. Yeah, he called it his freedom pigeon. It was an eagle with the head turned around backwards, and you can't tell it's an eagle. It looks decapitated. It's got big old chunky ham hock legs on it. Like, it was kind of
was a
goofy.
great
And,
cover.
and
Yeah,
Future
and
Nate
it
is going to
had-
show these two.
It had black and red and blue in it, and it was just a big old dark mess. And then to work this color realism eagle over it, with that being one of my first attempts at color realism ever, and to be, basically doing an individual realism painting for each feather and working in this limited palette of what's in an eagle, I had to make sure that everything covered that old tattoo. And I had to make sure that the head of the eagle didn't touch the old tattoo, because obviously that wasn't going to be able to cover it. Had to not end up with the eagle in his armpit and bring it across the chest at an angle that made sense. And I had stenciled the main body and the wing of the eagle across his chest, and then that back wing I stenciled separately so I could lay it over just right. And I think anatomically it came out looking solid and not having any weird, angles of broken wings where they shouldn't be. And I'm happy with it. But man, that category was tough. There was some good pieces. That glowing skull that took first.
that was very-
Joey Smith.
It was gorgeous.
Most people saw that one and now
You could see
that
it
was
across
a
the
good
room.
piece.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I was glad I got to enter it, and it's a cool piece. I think some of these big pieces, I'm getting to the point where I'm finally finishing some big pieces that I've been working on a while. And it's really showing me what I am capable of, because a lot of the things I'd finished are like little 1 day, 1 shot pieces. And so that's cool. I still haven't really nailed down and specialized and said, oh, this is my style. This is the thing I do. And I think that's okay. And I'll probably get there at some point. But for right now, still doing a little
Regardless,
bit of everything.
we should have led with this. Like, you've only been tattooing for not even 2 years. Is that
I
right?
just finished year 2.
Just finished 2 years. Yeah. So
Like 2 years
and
a
that was
month.
another shocker. That's a double take from a lot of people that you just hit the ground running like you are, and I don't know.
And I didn't pick it up super fast either. I feel like just like working with the machine and working in the skin, I had a lot of challenges at the beginning, and I feel like some people like touch the skin and they get it right away, and like, not to come off wrong about it, but I'm not used to like struggling that much the first time I try something, because I was
I
like,
understand.
I was like the academic kid. I was like the I got a 99%. What did I do wrong? Like,
That was
I
always
that
me.
kid.
I'm used to being at least good enough to do this.
Like, it
from
better
the
say
beginning.
102% at the top, or I'm not happy. Like,
Right.
so I wasn't used to that experience, and then just struggling over and over again to be like, why is my stuff too light? Why is my depth not right? Why is my saturation
All
not
of those
right?
questions, and I remember when you were going through that, because I went through the same thing, and neither of us, we had the same mentor. Neither of us really had anybody to, like, that we could depend on, that could take that was responsible for us to show us. David, I think, was that guy for both of us. For me, I remember, like, the yellow fell out of a Lucky Cat tattoo, and she came back, and I'm just like, before I chop her up, because I was still really scared of using a mag, because I chopped one person. I did a little extra damage, and it was fine. It ended up being fine, but I still kicked myself for it. And it was David that, like, put on gloves, asked my client, do you mind? And sat down and showed me angle and showed me what a mag was actually supposed to be for. And instead of like, oh yeah, I wouldn't have used the mag with that machine I gave you. That thing's garbage. Like, cool. I chewed up somebody because you gave me bad equipment.
Yeah.
Cool. But that's the thing, is like, I would always be like, well, I'd rather do too little than too much. I can fix too little. But I ended up getting really tired of being afraid that too little. What if I did it right the first time? And that was the same thing you were going through. It was just, and it takes time, and I'm still, I don't know if you ever really get over that, but it's
You do.
Yeah, I still
it
struggle,
happens.
but
I mean,
like,
I went through the same concept. Oh, you get skittish about putting even black in or any type
Yeah.
of even black and gray.
And I hope that this whole weekend has given you. I mean, you never came off as an unconfident person.
No,
No,
you
but
just I look at that your whole venture this past weekend is that I think it proved to you that you are worthy of being there and worthy of being around those kind of people that are
Yeah.
good tattoo artists, great tattoo artists.
I've always felt a little bit out of place in that environment because there's a lot of people that are like
It
the
can be intimidating.
metalhead, like kind of on the margins of society. You've got some like really adventurous people with the adventurous hair and the adventurous piercings, the adventurous outfits, and it's like I'm not dressed like I'm from Alice in Wonderland. That's a really cool
Nope.
dress. I
You
don't
got
feel
mom
like I can
over
pull
here
it off.
tattooing these
Right.
really cool colored pieces.
And I was
You wear a
joking with
beanie
somebody,
and
it's
she's
like,
got that tough mode going.
right, it's like I look like a substitute teacher because I'm a substitute teacher, and that's okay. But like, I can still do this thing. Like, I can still
Absolutely
be a part of
you
this.
can.
And I think that there's a lot of people in the industry that don't have that same vibe, but not a lot of them are at those events.
right.
Because there's definitely like some camaraderie at those events, people that see each other every year and work the circuit. They have a lot in common. They've got, music in common. They've got art in common. They've got stuff that they do together and hang out and they do the same kind of, parties on the weekend and stuff. And
Right.
so there's definitely a lot of diversity in the industry, but you don't see that much diversity at the conventions.
Right.
Because not everybody's doing that. It's at the end of the day, like it's a lot of time and energy and work and money to invest to even participate in a convention. So it's not for everybody. But yeah, it was really
It's not,
cool
but
to
those people
have that experience.
miss seeing you and miss seeing that art.
Yeah.
It shows.
Yeah, 'cause
they're gonna
I-
want to trust me. They're gonna want to see more from you.
Right.
It's good to watch other artists work and to see like, okay, what's the throw? How far out are you hanging your needles?
Right.
Like, are you riding the cart? Or are you keeping them in further? I was surprised how many people had their throw set really low and just barely had their needles out at all. And, what's their hand speed and what's their voltage? And that's one of the challenging things for me is because I like stuff to have like step-by-step instructions. Okay, if you're doing fine line, you want this voltage, you
Right.
want this hand speed, you want your needle out this far and use this size. And you always do that and it'll be just fine. Like,
Yeah,
my
here's
brain-
the tools, here's the
But it's
technique,
like,
these are the results you can
there's
expect.
people
Right, I'm
with
like
their
that too.
throw out real far, hanging their needles out like Curtis. He's like, I'm blind as a bat. I got to hang my needles way out or I can't see what I'm doing. I'm like, that's cool, Curtis. That works for you. That's awesome.
Right? And it does. I mean, there's a lot of artists that work
Bryn
like
wasn't
that.
running his needles out very far. And then watching them do that or the order that they approach their colors in when they're doing color and the speed they run their hand at and the voltage they run their machine at, they're all doing it different and they're achieving great pieces. So
It's because they understand their process. They understand their own personal hand speed. They understand what their machine can do and what it's capable of doing and matching that. They understand that this needle depth works best for me. And it's not always good for
right.
everybody.
And I think
but
you could pick any voltage, and there is some artist out there creating amazing pieces at 3.6 or at 10.2. Like there is somebody at every voltage doing something amazing. And you could pick, any size needle and there's somebody out there doing something amazing. But if you give somebody that machine that doesn't know what they're doing, you could have an expert calibrate everything and set it all up and they're still going to do something bad. So it's really just that experience element.
And
No,
you can-
you're right. It's the knowledge. It's having that understanding
And
of,
the feel
of
for
all
the
of those
skin
little
and-
things.
yeah.
And you can learn a lot from just, all of us here in the studio, but to be able to go and like interact on a regular basis with other artists in
so
other
many
places and
other
different
artists.
stuff, like it's incredibly valuable to you.
Right.
Like, and it's just like,
And-
oh, I guess not everything has to be processed, like cut and dry, 4-color process. Like my brain is wired. Like you tell me the tools, you
Right.
tell me what's expected, give me a time frame and I'll do it.
Right.
But in this case, I that's what I meant with the rewiring. I wonder if it's just like it's opened up. Are you going to be an award-winning monster from here on out? Are you gonna? I hope you do, but only if you want it. I don't
know.
But what it comes down to is that I think in my background, being an artist in a handful of different industries, art in competitions was always bullshit to me. However, this is the first time, especially this weekend. There's always going to be artists that are just hungry for that validation, those plaques, those
That
awards.
are like just there
They're
for
gonna
the
just
awards.
blanket the walls with their with their importance. And fine, if that's what satisfies you, by all means, congratulations. You
It's not.
deserve
I think
every
it
one
was
of them.
great watching
But
other artists take home awards that are hungry.
Right.
That have not
Absolutely.
ever won a thing in their
Right.
life with regards to tattooing, and watching those people accomplish those goals was far more satisfying.
And it's incredible though to see. It's one thing for a whole community of artists to be in an uproar, like to just jump out of their chairs cheering for another artist, just out of pride and support. Someone that doesn't work with them, somebody in another shop from another state. They hear their name called, and like a bunch of people jump out of their chair and
we
cheer
were
for
doing
them.
that. Like we've seen that guy working on that piece all weekend,
Right.
and that piece is
Right.
wicked.
It's
And
like,
when
I
they
learned
call his
about that.
name, we're like, yes, he deserves it. It's
I
so
discovered this
cool.
man today, like
Right.
yesterday, and to see him win on it, it's a huge deal. And it's like, at the very least, plaque or award or frame or statue aside, everybody who works that hard and puts that much effort into it deserves to feel proud of themselves as much as their peers are proud of them. And it hits different when you have a moment you're like, I feel proud of me. And it's not about like, look at me, here's validation. Here's an excuse for me to raise my prices, or
No.
it's not that.
It's achieving
and
a
not
goal.
every industry, not every community has that kind of underbelly, or that undercurrent
Right.
of just pride and support. I've never heard in any other art form, in any other in the comic scene, I've never heard anybody working on the next first place winning tattoo talking about, man, that guy over there is going to kill it. That guy over there is, I can't be any more proud for that person. You don't get that in any industry. That's not normal. Like, at least in my head, in my experience so far. And this weekend, really, to see people I'd never met before running up to you and giving you a hug and just telling you, to see like the moment Bryn knew you were the fox. And then like how quickly he like suddenly like and it's not like he's always friendly, but there's definitely a switch that's flipped.
Right.
And like, you're a peer now.
Yeah, he still invited me behind the table to
Right.
watch him work, even though he hadn't clicked yet and realized it was me. It's like, I'm wearing a hat. I'm a different person now, But-
Right.
And so, like, it's
And there's
so-
nobody with more humility and more, and with a better head on her shoulders than you to take that and to really, we can't wait to see what you do with it from here, and or it may not be anything. Maybe you'd be like, boom, nailed it. And it was more about the relationships
I
and
can
the
just
conversation.
phone it in forever now.
And it's just now, but from here on out, you've earned a spot at the table to at least have conversations, and you can wear that crown as much as you want.
Yeah, it was cool because one of my goals long term is I'd love to be able to do guest spots in places, especially
Yeah.
places that aren't Missouri, and say, hey, we're going to take a family vacation. I got a husband and kids. We can go out there for like a week and hang out. I can tattoo for 2 or 3 days. That's going to pay for, half the expenses of the trip.
Yeah.
We've got the travel as a write-off now, to be able to say, hey, this is an excuse for us to go see this city we haven't seen before. So then for me to have this, it was like, this was my street cred, for the
Right,
weekend
yeah.
to say, hey, do you have guest spots? Is that a thing you do? How do you run the split? How does that work? And be able to text my husband and be like, all right, husband,
Right.
Texas, Tennessee, Kansas, like, what are we talking? What do you want to do? And
Yeah.
so it would be cool to go to some bigger conventions too that have people from other places. And there was people from like Indiana there. But it's just kind of always a mix depending on dates, what works for different people. Because there's been a lot of people from the Southwest at the convention at the past. I didn't see a lot this time. There was some Pennsylvania people, but it's like, I want to meet somebody from, like
people from
Washington
Ohio.
State or, some places where it'd be cool to visit and hang out for a week and tattoo and stuff like this helps me in that stepping stone to be like, oh, okay, now even though you don't know who I am, you haven't seen me work, at
But
least
you
I
do
have
now.
like
But you
some
have at least
validity
something of
like,
a little bit of a portfolio, or at least I don't know what, a
right.
resume.
So
I
like
suppose.
somebody else who knows what they're talking about said you did good on a thing. Okay,
Right.
you've got some skills. So that's cool, and I hope that there will be some doors open there.
Yeah, and you could
future.
spin it that way, absolutely. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Well, and we got to do some other really cool interviews. We got to talk to Gypsy and Bryn Beer from Indiana.
Yeah.
We got to talk to Ozzy Blood from Las Vegas. He's a freak show performer that does sword swallowing
Yeah.
and some other crazy stuff.
Yeah, check him out.
We got to talk to the owners of Blasted
Yeah.
Tattoo Care.
Brad and Kelly. Yeah.
Brad and Kelly, they're amazing.
Separately, even, which was
Yeah.
which was great.
Yeah.
'cause-
Yeah.
Separately.
Two sides of the coin. That's great.
Right?
Who else did we interview? Oh, I talked to
We
Curtis
got-
Green.
Yep. Curtis Green. We got
He's really
Ryan
cool.
Barnum.
Uh-huh.
We got. Oh man! See, of course you put me on the spot. How
No.
embarrassing.
Right.
Either way, every single one of these interviews is going to be on the YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be shorter videos that we didn't want to like take up too much of their time. A lot of them were because they were like taking a break from a current piece.
Mm-hmm.
But each one of you, if you're watching, thank you so much for hanging out with us, spending
Yeah.
time with us. It was been a big goal for us to reach the point where we could take the podcast outside of.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we got a new crypt, but. Just
Take
to
the
be able to
couch
take it
on
on
the
the road,
road.
and
Right?
it's like
Taking
and
the
it's
couch
those
on the road.
at the very least, just to show like we thought if we could do this right, if we can get people to afford the time to entertain us, then this is something that we could do everywhere we go. So thank you so much. And whether you're far away and need to call in via Zoom, or you're local or can find your way through here, stop by. Set up a guest spot with us, hang out with us, sit on the couch right here, do an interview with it, longer form interview. Every single one of you, we want to really get to know you better. We want to know your story. We want to hear your journey. We want to hear your techniques. We really appreciate you. So much love to all you. Thank you guys.
Like and subscribe.